Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a capsule selection. Today, we're going to dive into a list that really captures and encapsulates the essence of fall and autumn wear when it comes to perfumery. This is one that really gets you attuned with the up and coming season. When you're going into a new environment, just a new feel of life, the seasons change. You have the rustic and amber colors around you. You have the beautiful leaves crushing beneath your feet. You have the cider mills. You have everything about life begins to change, becomes cooler weather. And that's when you begin to get into certain fragrance categories in your selection and wardrobe that really bring about something, as I said, to bring attune the season and its events and its holiday spirit. And that is one thing that I love about this particular season, and what I love to wear is boozy fragrances around this time. They are really exotic, they're really mouth-watering fragrances that really get you into a comforting stage, a comforting season, really get you autumnal. And so for me, I have 15 fragrances here today. I'm going to take you through a little capsule selection. I'm going to show you 5 honorable mentions. I'm going to round out my top 10, and then I'll dive into my actual 5 favorites at the moment. This is not all comprehensive what's in my actual wardrobe as fragrances for boozy fragrances, but it gives you an insight of what I would like to wear coming into the fall and then the winter season beginning. So if this sounds like the type of content you think you'll enjoy, pull up a seat, pour a glass, and of course, lesson hats. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Dry Down, the lifestyle channel where we as enthusiasts aspire to enhance and elevate our olfactive sensory experiences through the understanding of different aromas, facets, and nuance of scent, cigars, and wines. I'm your host, Chris. Welcome to today's experience. We're going to dive into a 15-part list. As I stated in the monologue, we're going to dive into a nice little package of honorable mentions. All of these are really favorite fragrances that are going to be worn in consumption throughout the fall and winter, but to really be concise and break down something for you guys to see where my head is lying or what I may be wearing the most, I want to break it down to that type of description. Honorable mentions, round out the top 10, and then give you my top 5, if not the ones that I've truly loved over the years, the ones that I know that I'll be wearing this particular fall and winter season of 2024. And so first, I want to dive into a fragrance here from the house of AMOUAGE. It is one of the most spectacular fragrances that I think is slept on. And I think it's slept on because of the name of the fragrance and also the juice color. Because I think that those things, when we correlate and give evocation to a certain scent, sometimes the name and color of the fragrance can really do something for us and make us not either accept, reject, or actually never really think about it in contemplation when we choose our fragrances. And this one here is my collection for quite some time, and over the years I've come to appreciate it more and more, but I've come to appreciate it more and more because of the actual scent that is inside of it as a boozy fragrance. So as I get to stating about the mission, this is my first of 5 honorable mentions. This is Sunshine Man by the house of AMOUAGE. Sunshine Man is a very beautiful aromatic fragrance that is built by one of my favorite perfumers, Fabrice Pellegrin. If you look him up, you see banger after banger what this gentleman is making. Fabrice Pellegrin is a beautiful perfume maker. He has a lot in his stable when it comes to different house manufacturing and different abilities. So all in all, when he made Sunshine Man, he made a fragrance built around brandy and immortelle. And that's what I stated. This fragrance was actually a brown in coloration, deeper, darker brown, and had a different name. This would be in a lot of top 10 fragrance situations. So for me, the reason it's not in my top 10 at the moment is because it's one that I haven't pulled out as much because of the harkening back and evocation of what this fragrance is. So at the end of the day, Sunshine Man by the house of AMOUAGE is one beautifully done brandy, immortelle, slightly has it's a liqueur style of fragrance that has some citrus tonality to it, very aromatic, vanillic, sweet, and a little bit of lavender. So it has this aromatic accords and spices to it, while also being a sweet boozy effect. And it's one that has, as AMOUAGE always does, they go off the beaten path. They don't do redundancy as much as people in other houses do, and they really evolve. And so this one here is one they introduced about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's gone off great. It's one that you only need one spray, and I do wear this. It'd be surprising to look at the bottle. I do wear this. This is not a fragrance I don't pull out. It's just a one spray fragrance because of how AMOUAGE can do with their powerful fragrances. So once again, Sunshine Man, number 15 in the best of boozy fragrances. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, I have for you here the House Scents of Woods PLUM and Cognac. This is one that was a flash pan about 2 or 3 years ago, came into the Fragcom. Everybody smelled it, fell in love with it. It's one that while I enjoy it, is not one of my favorites. It is an honorable mention because I know I'll be wearing it more often this season. The thing about this one for me is the way that the Haitian Vetter interacts with the cinnamon and purple balsam is not one of my favorite styles, the way this one smells. But as a boozy fragrance, when I do sit back and understand what it is as a boozy fragrance, it becomes, I interact with it in that way. And so the rum in this one, the plum, the actual cinnamon and vanilla, very sweet, very, I would say, like I stated, the labdanum and immortelle in this one, unlike Sunshine Man, seem to conflict with each other. And this is also one of the better fragrances that came out in the last few years when it comes to booziness. But it's one, it has, when it settles in, it's this nutty effect that I can't conjure where it's coming from. And I don't know what that nutty effect, if it's the actual alcohol that they use to macerate and mature the fragrance in, but it's something about the particular fragrance when it settles in on my skin, it's this nutty effect that comes up. But all in all, as a boozy fragrance, it's one that's very sensual and sexy. It's good on the nose off the actual paper, off the blotter, but on my skin, something about my skin chemistry puts this a little bit into a nutty category for me, which makes me pull for this one a little bit less than I would think I would have. But it's a beautiful, beautiful, popular fragrance. Evokes great rum accords and comes off sensual and sexy. So once again, in the honorable mentions, 14, Scents of Woods, Plum and Cognac. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, top 10 for many people. Some this is a Grail fragrance. This is Frapin's 1270, number 13 in the honorable mentions. This is a very sexy rum-based fragrance that is a cocktail in its own. This is, to me, it smells of rum and or cognac at the same time. Sidonie Lancesor made this fragrance, and she was one of my favorite perfumers when I first started doing this game. She made this one here, sweet, resinous, fruity, so it smells almost like a Manhattan or an Old Fashioned, more like a Manhattan with the sugar cubes inside of it. Very sweet, very seductive, has some pineapple, juicy, drippy, sweet, succulent pineapple, some resins, some dates, plums, tonka bean, dried fruits in the mid, a whole bunch of floral accords, but it settles down to this woody and honey accorded fragrance that is very, very incensey, sexy and sensual. And like I stated, it comes off like a warm cocktail of either cognac or rum. Very sexy, very sensual smelling fragrance that gets a lot of heads turning. For me, mine is not a weak bottle. I've heard things about this one, complaints about it being not one of the, and it smells good, one of the most powerful or performing fragrances, but for me, I've never had that issue with this particular scent or Frapin as a house. I hear that a lot about them, but I'm not one to complain about it because I often purchase their fragrances, and this is one that I love. 1270, House of Frapin. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is by KILIAN's Vodka on the Rocks. Of course, all fragrance accords are not the same. This one here is to evoke the scent of vodka. Even in the fall and winter time, this actual scent is a four-season scent. It's really spicy, really herbaceous, slightly phenolic and green, aldehydic. At the end of the day, they did a nice job of capturing the essence of a masculine scent that comes off with a little bit of a tinge of vodka in it. And I like it. It's a very becoming scent for spring and fall, where it goes off great. It smells of the slight booze accords, but you would not conjure that when you smell it outside of knowing that you're wearing Vodka on the Rocks. Someone smell this on you, they're not going to say you smell like booze at all. They're going to think you smell slightly woody, slightly mossy. Ambroxan is in this one, ambergris, lily of the valley, rose, a little rhubarb. So it's a spicy, herbaceous feel to this one, very aromatic. And of course, like I said, it smells a bit of a hint of that boozy vodka when you spray it on the skin. Comes off, it gives that evocation, and then it settles down to a more pure, gentleman fragrance that is really becoming. It's a great scent too, man. Vodka on the Rocks is really one that I enjoy wearing, especially one when I take on vacations, because it's one that can do everything on a vacation. It's a four-season scent that way. It's an event fragrance. It smells very well in the heat. It's very well in the cold. Very well when you're around the pool area, and very well when you're on the ski slopes. So that's what I actually got this for. It's one of those scents, and I've actually enjoyed that for that. So this is Vodka on the Rocks by KILIAN. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have one of my favorite bottles in my collection. This is the beautiful IDOLE LUBIN Eau de Parfum. This is a spectacular fragrance that just resonates with me so much and so often. It's higher on my list as one that I'm placing inside of the top 5 of honorable mentions. Not so much because it's not one of my favorite, but because I wore so much of this particular scent. It actually is one that has so many scent memories with me, some good and some bad, and that's why it's so high on the list, because I wore it so much and I had so many events going on in my life when I first got this. But for me, scent wise, you cannot complain about this one. Very sexy rum fragrance with some spices, little caraways inside. This is cumin liqueurs, so it's sexy, seductive, very intoxicating type of scent. It has a lot of incense, a lot of olibanum, a lot of sugar cane inside this one. So it's everything that you want inside of a boozy fragrance. It evokes that sensual side of a man, very masculine, very hard woods. Ebony is inside this one. Like I stated, the rum accord is the booze that runs through this, along with that incense, leathery accord, sandalwood, amber. So it's an ambre take on the boozy fragrances, and this is one, as I stated, very much so one of my favorite fragrances when it comes to the booze accords and ambre scents in my collection. IDOLE Eau de Parfum by the House of LUBIN Paris. So we're gonna break it to the top 10 of fragrances I know I'll be wearing this particular year. This one here is from the House of ELECTIMUSS, and this is Ambre Aquilaria. ELECTIMUSS does a good job. They do a great job. I don't know how else to put it. I really enjoy the effort, the intensity, and fervor that they put into their fragrance brand. The bottle presentation, the scents, everything about them is a brand that I enjoy. I think I love being a collector of. This one here, ELECTIMUSS Ambre Aquilaria, is a ambre vanillic boozy fragrance that it revolves around a very, very beautiful sandalwood ambergris oud accord, but the overlying effect is a cognac that rides over this particular scent with a rose accord. Very, very different in the way it wears to any other in my collection. It has the booze accord that comes off very, I'd say, it creates this aromatic, subtle sweetness that feels very much so like an alcoholic beverage, but the oud in this one is that medicinal oud, which gives it this it's almost an aristocratic type of scent. I would say it's something that you will never, outside of this particular bottle, I have never smelled anything that comes quite close to this in the way it smells. So it's one that's just one of those out of reach, inaccessible smells that ELECTIMUSS has bottled for the masses. Very, very beautiful scent. It comes off very well. That's why it's in my top 10 for the fall of 2024 when it comes to the best of booze. Ambre Aquilaria Cognac. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have the scent BARAONDA by the House of NASOMATTO. This is the second bottle. I actually picked this up not too long ago. I ran through a bottle of this one and knew I had to get it back into my collection. So this is a brand new bottle, and it does smell exactly like my former. I really enjoy this one. This is a great whiskey fragrance. This is woody notes. This is amber musk. This is rose and ambroxan. This is a very musky whiskey accorded scent that comes off sweet, intoxicating like the rest. This has no citrus accords. There's a lot of sweet rose, ambergris or ambroxan, the ambergris derivative or synthetic molecule. Woody notes that are indescript, but you can smell all the cask smell, so it could be cedar or oak. I think that it smells of an evocation of oak and that whiskey accord. Very fine fragrance. Can't wait to put this on my skin throughout the winter and fall of 2024. Once again, BARAONDA by the House of NASOMATTO. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, up in my list again for over the last 2 weeks, I presented this one. This is my favorite boozy fragrance from the House of ROJA Parfums. It may be changing because I do have one I picked up and I'm really enjoying what that scent does. But for none the least, what I got here is Creation E or Enigma Eau de Parfum. Very beautifully done, heavy nuanced fragrance around pepper, ginger spice, bergamot, black pepper, sweet benzoin, and of course cognac is in this one. One of those fragrances that was introduced to me early in my fragrance collecting, and it was one that was, I actually had to, before ROJA turned into this elaborate bottling situation, it was a 100 ml bottle with a little paper plaque on the front, clear top. It was generic bottling and everything, and then he got a hold of what he knew he could do, and he started charging up prices, and this is what we came up with next, and then the evolving of his brand has come to be what it is today. But I remember when this bottle was a 100 ml bottle for less than the price of the 50 ml, and it was one of those things that I just fell in love with at that point in time. So this is one great golden juice, cognac, tobacco, ginger, jasmine, beautiful fragrance that goes off very well, spicy nuances, kind of solar in its effect, but it's enticing, attractive, and exotic. Very beautifully done cognac fragrance by the House of ROJA Dove, and that is Enigma or Creation E. Next up, guys, what we have here is a fragrance from Frederic Malle and that perfumer Bruno Jovanovic. This one here, this is that pinstripe double-breasted suit wearer. This is that man who is self-assured. This is Monsieur, period. And that's the name of this one. They made sure to put a period at the end. That's how much strength this one carries. Very, like I said, self-assured fragrance, sophisticated. Has a lot of virility, I would say. I'm going to say vitriol, but virility that really is an aesthetic for this fucking scent, man. It's beautiful. It's one that really much so is non-molecular smelling, very true to its accords. Did a great job with these particular oils. The booze in this one is a rum along with the patchouli. Very, very becoming scent. A little bit of tangerine is in this one, almost evocative of scents of Garuda and Straight to Heaven. This is what is in that layer, but as with those two, they have different nuances that peak and valley that come off differently. Nothing redundant, so to speak, but kind of conjures the memory. This one is a modern classic to me. This is Monsieur by the House of Frederic Malle. Beautiful scent. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, I got my travel atomizer here. This is one of the scents, just as Creation E was one of the fragrances that first started this genre of fragrance purchasing for me. This is the actual travel atomizer that's been around for years. For me, as you can see, this is their branded travel atomizer. It look a little bit dusty there, but you get the essence of what I'm trying to show you. This is patchouli, this is musk, this is rum, this is ambergris, and this is cedarwood, and this is sexy. Very beautiful. The top notes come off as a splash of patchouli and rum. Goes into that dried fruit, very sexual, rosewood, vanilla. One of the very best when it comes to the boozy accorded patchouli scents. It is something just like I stated previously with the Monsieur. It goes in that vein, but this one goes a little bit more musky, a little bit more lift off the skin. The Jovanovic is, like I said, a scent that really goes to the aesthetic of a pinstripe, non-playful, I won't say non-playful. It's one that's very, very sharp in its intent for a man to wear that particular scent. Straight to Heaven could be one that I think a lady could pull off. Not feminine, but something that a woman could pull off who wears a business suit. Very fine fragrance. I love this particular scent. Straight to Heaven, White Crystals by KILIAN. Great scent. Guys, we're going to dive into the top 5 in this particular list. Today, as I look into my fragrances, boozy fragrances, I have what I'm thinking I'm going to start wearing more often and what I've been wearing over the last few years. This is one of the finer fragrances in my collection. A really one-off style of fragrance that very, very much so evokes the scent of a very beautiful rum absolute, liqueur absolute fragrance that is very, very evocative of sensuality. This is a suede, leathery, warm chypre style of fragrance that comes off with that liqueur. Everything about this fragrance is uplifting and vibrant and beautiful. It's a Paponax, it's tonka bean, patchouli, as I said, a little bit of saffron leather, a little bit of suede with that liqueur chord that runs throughout the actual scent with a little plum, coffee, and vetiver. A grand fragrance that I can't wait to wear more of this season. It's, of course, my bottle matured just a little bit more than it had when I first picked it up. And it's a beast mode fragrance. 2 or 3 sprays of this one. You don't need much, especially for what you're getting into the mood to wear it for, because it's not an everyday scent. This is one that very much so calls to a night on the town, a night out, a date night, something like that. Not something you want to wear every day. It's rich, it's thick, it's bloom on the skin with that suede and liqueur and plum. Very, very sensual fragrance. I think all you guys should get your nose on. If not this bottle, the new bottle that comes out available by this house. This is Thomas de Monaco Raw Gold. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, I have another one from the house of Paris LUBIN. A great fragrance house, man. I preach about this house so much. It's accessible at under $200. It's 100 ml bottles that look fabulous on the dresser. They look like actual vessels that will be in any home decor, especially if you get a collection of them and line them up. But about the bottle of the scent, this is, I don't know how this is not talked about. Well, I know how it's not talked about. It's not one of those fragrance houses that really gets talked about. But for me, top 5 of all time when it comes to boozy fragrances. This has a beautiful cognac and it has the actual scent of whiskey inside of it. So you have a 2-pronged approach when it comes to the fragrance accords of whiskey and rum or cognac. And to me, this is one of the fragrances that really calls to what it is to make an exemplary fragrance, as I like to state. When you have a thought in your mind about what you want to achieve in fragrance making, and you have something that you want to go to and go towards and see what it is that the best of the best is, KORRIGAN is a sweet, warm cedar fragrance with whiskey and cognac, a little bit of oud, saffron, and ambre musk. Very, very well done. Lavender and vetiver in this one. This is an all-around head-turning fragrance that I know that if many of you get your nose on this one, you will actually be, if not pleasantly surprised, you will be downright just enamored with how this one smells. It's sweet, it's masculine, it's woody, it's club affair-ish. It can go to the club. It actually has that appeal, but also while it still has an upscale air about it. And that's one thing that LUBIN does. The Parisian take on this is, like I stated in one of my previous videos, how they make classic Parisian perfumes. This is one, the House of LUBIN is one of those houses that really fits into that category of how they structure their fragrances. And KORRIGAN, very, very sexy fragrance. I think all you guys should get your nose on. Like I said, cognac and whiskey is in this one. Sensual, sexy fragrance that I think is beautiful for fall wear. Next up, one of my favorite fragrances now. This is Voyage of Paris by the House of Fragrance Du Bois. Very surprising how this fragrance has changed over time in my eyes. When I first got this one, this is the reason why I don't really particularly like to do first impression fragrances on my actual channel, man, because you get these fragrances, you smell something. If you smell so many fragrances, a lot of times you're not blown away. And for me, when I opened this box and gave it a wear, I was not blown away at all. But I will say this, I am actually at this point in love with the way this fragrance smells, man. This is a compliment magnet. I stated the one big thing, I didn't say I didn't like the way it smelled in the actual review. I stated that this fragrance was not a projector or a performer. And I felt that way when I first got it. I couldn't smell it. It did not do anything for me in smell wise, but the more I wore it, the more I could begin to pick up what the Divana was doing, the tagates, the honeyed rum in this fragrance, and the oak, the oud, the vanilla. This is one well-made fragrance that, as I stated, it is surprising not only how much I love wearing it as a aura scent around me. It projects, it really gets out the paces of about 4 feet, because I've been complimented so many times with this fragrance from events. A speaking engagement I actually wore this to a theater, to a show, a jazz show with Wynton Marsalis, and this went off beautifully. Everything about this particular scent comes off gorgeous. I love the way that the rum mixes with the green herbaceousness of the Divana with the tagates, a little bit of orange blossom, but maximalist when it comes to honey, oud, and patchouli. Great rum fragrance, man. This is one I think you guys should get to sampling. Very well done fragrance. I can't wait to put on my skin for the fall and winter of 2024. Once again, Voyage of Paris by the House of Fragrance Du Bois. Next up, guys, one of my top 10 fragrances of all time, and this one here just happens to include one of my favorite notes of whiskey accords that come from perfumery. NEFS is a breeze from the east. This is a beautifully done fragrance that it has a lot of soft balsamic touches, a little woodiness, richness, honey tonalities. It, at the end of the day, is a very ambery, sweet spice concoction that is one of the best perfume blends I've ever smelled. NEFS was done just as an amber oriental, but evokes everything coming from whiskeys, honeys, ambers, vanillas, nutmeg, olibanum, everything in that realm. It's just this very well blended, well balanced fragrance that comes off with a lot of push, and it smells phenomenal. It smells phenomenal. It's a very beautifully done whiskey fragrance by the House of NISHANE, and this is NEFS. I will wax poetic, but I've already done a few videos on this one, so you guys know, and you guys have seen this in many people's collections and many people's date nights. But for me, honey, nutmeg, whiskey, olibanum, vanilla, amber, beautiful fragrance. Top 2 all time when it comes to boozy fragrances, and my top 10 of all time. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, last on the list, number 1 fragrance when it comes to boozy fragrances, alcoholic beverage style of fragrances. This is one that evokes it to a T. This is Single Malt by the House of by KILIAN. This was their London exclusive, and I remember when I picked this one up, it came with a pretty penny back then, and man, was I ecstatic that I was able to get this particular scent in my collection, and it has been a mainstay. Wearing it sparingly over the years, what Single Malt was able to do was capture everything I was finding out in my journey of life when it came to having cocktails, drinking, going out, having fun, coming off of vacations, experiencing those different aromas and different vacations and having different cocktails made, going down the Bourbon Trail. Everything about this particular scent is one that harkens to those memories, those events, and that style of smell. And it's one that very much so comes off just contemporary, beautiful, just evening wear, day wear, date wear. Everything about single malt is A1. This is a 10 out of 10 fragrance for me, man. And this is one fragrance. It has the whiskey accord. It has a wheat, like a malted wheat. It has cedar wood. It has plum. It has tolu balsam. And all these things accorded with the Madagascar and vanilla create one of the best profiles that come off the skin. Now, the evolution on this one. This is the thing about this one. You would think with so few accords, the way it perfumed and came off for me and comes off for me and makes it my number one. I'll be very brief in what I'm saying here. The way that the whiskey evolves around the fragrance, it whirls around the entire scent profile. It never becomes a too heavy particular part. It opens with that, and then with each different encompassing hour of the day, you get the whiskey with the tolu, the whiskey with the peach, the whiskey with the cedar wood, the whiskey with the wheat, and then each accompanying fragrance really evolves and gives a weaving effect around each other that complements you. Something that's very sensual, has many facets that go off very sweet, but many facets that go off masculine and woody. Great fragrance. I think all you guys should get your nose off if you happen to have a chance to. Single Malt by the House of by KILIAN is my number one boozy fragrance of all time. Glad I have it in my collection. Ladies and gentlemen, today I gave you not an exhaustive list of my complete fragrance collection of boozy scents, but my top 15 at the moment, maybe for the next few years. I hope this video struck a chord with you guys as always. It's fun for me to make these videos for you and with you and talk to you about these fragrances. If you have any boozy fragrances that I didn't tap on and I may have my collection, let's have a conversation about that. Tap in below and let me know what your top 2 or 3 boozy fragrances are going to be for the year of 2024. Like I said, this is one that very much so evokes the fall, autumn. For me, I love these and tobacco fragrances. Can't wait to get my tobacco list out to you guys. I love the way when the seasons change here in Southeast Michigan. Like I said, the umber and amber tundra starts to change. The leaves go red and black and brown, I should say. Then the leaves are beneath your feet. They're cracking. You're putting on your brand new boots. You're going out to the cider mill with the babies. And it's just a fun time for us here in this particular region of America. And I hope that in your life you have something like that to have as a memory for you and your family. And wearing these fragrances create those memories for me as well. As always, if you have anything that was entertaining and or educational about this particular video, or that I ever ask that you do, hit the like button, subscribe, and send this off to a friend and share. Also guys, if you are not a subscriber, I would appreciate it if you do, man. I'm seeing it a lot of like 30 to 40% of the people that watch my videos are watching consistently, but they're not subscribing. So if you would just please do that for me, it would be great to get this channel out to other people so we can have a bigger family here to have these discussions with. Until next time and until next video, you guys have a blessed day. Peace.